start recording. So let's start with what it looks like when an agent submits. They're going to have an accord form like we see here. I'm going to use a shortcut that a lot of agents really like, but you can open up the form and click print if you want to. But a really quick and easy way is to simply right click with the mouse and click uplink. The credentials will pop up, then we will hit send.
Is that, then, for example, Sarah, when the okay, so that's you're starting from the agent's perspective. Never mind.
Starting from the agent's perspective in this particular situation, absolutely. Understood. But then I will also show from the PMC perspective.
Gotcha. No.
Alrighty, and sounds good. And then we'll leave it as work comp and click continue.
Yes, I think that's the only line we purchased.
And then we'll locate PMC as our market. The agent will select PMC. Now it duplicates all their data from the accord form over into Appulate. Now the agent, since we haven't built out the missing and required questions for what market PMC might go to, I'm going to show you kind of a neat trick when we get to the PMC view, what it looks like. But first I will click submit. It will then say to the agent, okay, the submission's been sent over to PMC, and an underwriter will review the submission and essentially get back to you. So now I am going to log in as my login. Then I will go to quotes and new and unassigned. So this is going to be everything that doesn't have an underwriter attached to it. And it looks like there's actually two others in here. But we have my test agency, and you can edit these two, the status and the underwriter. So I will just assign myself. So it takes it out of your view, and then I can go directly into the submission simply by clicking on Cycle Works Garden Center. So I actually don't have to go to insured, all insured, and then re-find the name. We can just select it from here. So now it'll say that the submission has been received. You'll see the status. So next, you will click Add Market, so the plus sign here. Then locate whatever market it is that you would want to take this to. I'm going to use AmTrust as an example, but of course you might have more. Mm-hmm. So we will then click Add One Market. It's only going to add the one. Then if there are any missing and required questions, there's two ways to handle these. Realistically, you probably want the agent to answer the missing and required questions. And we can identify that there's missing and required questions in two different ways. One is the letter indicator here. It kind of shows up just by hovering over the orange A that's kind of in the middle of the screen, but in line with the market name. Or you can look at the numbers next to the tab. So if I click on underwriting, there are two missing and required questions here. Now, if PMC knows the answers to these questions, and feel free, you can go ahead and answer them. But I also want to point out a really helpful tool, which is the send Q&A. And because I am in a training account, it's actually not going to send the full email out, but I will at least be able to kind of show you what it looks like. So let's say we don't know the answers to these questions and we want the agent to answer them. We will click the send Q&A option, leave PMC and AmTrust, because this is you guys, and any other markets that show up there. But now looking at the selected questionnaire section, since subject doesn't have anything next to it, we'll simply deselect it, leave the other three because those do have missing and required questions in them. Again, you can always reference the numbers next to the tabs. Then to speed up the process, instead of sending all of the questions or simply the unanswered questions, we just want to focus on the required unanswered only. So select required unanswered only, then click OK. It will populate an email. It will automatically populate the agent's email here. Feel free to edit this or create a new template if you'd like, but please do not delete the fill out the questionnaire in Appulate section. This is really important. This is how the agent is going to get back to the questions that you need answered without having to log into Appulate. So once you hit send, and this email that we're seeing here is sent over to the agent, they simply click on the questionnaire and Appulate link that's provided here. Then what they get in the background is simply these 3 tabs with those missing and required questions in them. Very easy. They'll answer the missing and required questions. So in this case, I'm going to answer them. So pretend that I'm in an agent view, answering missing and required questions. The agent will answer missing and required questions. We'll add a contact role here. All right. And now let's say the agents answered all of the missing and required questions. PMC will then receive an email notification, whoever the underwriter is that has been assigned to this, saying that the agent has updated the questionnaire. You get back on the questionnaire, you'll see that there aren't any missing and required questions. And in this instance, there's one more and it's just the limit. So let me answer this guy. Then you would be able to click submit. It will then generate a quote, which I'm not going to do. I'm just going to mark this as submitted for the purposes of training.
So when you get a notification, will they receive an email, or is it going to be notified in Appulate that they'll be like the agent answered the questions?
It's going to send you an email.
Okay.
It's actually not a current pop-up. Like if you were already in Appulate, it doesn't give you a pop-up that like, hey, this isn't updated. With that said, there has been some talk about implementing something like that, but I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet. So I don't want to promise anything.
I like the email option. I think everybody's always aware of their email, so I like that email option.
Yeah, I will say that that's definitely true. Now let's pretend that like this GL submission, let's pretend that this is a quote. Well, the quote will upload, and actually an AmTrust situation, it would just automatically generate the quote. There wouldn't be anything that you would have to do. But let's say that we uploaded a quote and we're ready to release this back to the agent. We'll simply head to action, click release. Then it'll highlight
Pavel
right here.
Pavel said that AmTrust is working on that, being able to send the quote back through. Currently, it's not working yet, but that's coming.
Right.
Very soon.
That is true.
Super.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. This was a manual upload example, so it's just a tad different.
That's okay.
So now I will log out of this view. I'm going to log into this one. And this was my agent account that I had originally sent the quote through. So if I come back to where it says workers' compensation, I can now see the quote that PMC released to me. And if I had an appointment with PMC, I'd be able to click request to bind, and it sends the bind request over to PMC.
So there was no cover letter that went with the quote. It literally was just release.
In this particular view, yes, but you can also add the cover letter option. This was just for what the entire cycle would look like if you were strictly going with the quote.
Okay. And then we can identify in the request to bind, we can identify what we need to bind with this carrier.
Absolutely.
Good. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. We're with you.
So that's the agent submission lifecycle. Any other questions about that, how that functions?
I think that's it. Nothing at this time.
Okay. Let me delete this, and then I'm going to log into my regular PMC that I have. I have so many passwords. Make sure that it had deleted here so that it doesn't stay in the view. All right, now I'm going to get out of this altogether. Let's say that PMC received this particular accord form from an agent, and you are submitting it in Appulate on their behalf. We'll use the right-click shortcut, but you can open it up and use the uplink tool as well. Switch my credentials here, then hit send. So very similar process, virtually identical. Auto logs in as PMC, leave it as work comp, and click continue. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do here. This does not automatically assign an agency or a producer. So if that agent is already in Appulate, then you can technically assign it to them, even if they don't use Appulate. It's okay. But very similarly, just like the agent upload process takes all the duplicate data, pulls it into Appulate.
A question I'm going to stop it for a second. Yeah. Are there any employer's liability limits on your Accord that you're OCRing into here? Are there any EL limits on your Accord? I'm like, why isn't it picking it up? I'm just curious.
Let me see. Well, so some of the limits actually are going to be market specific. I don't know that I entered. I've done this. I did this one a while ago. So
go back to page one. Page one. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense why they're not. Okay. No, because it is reading it for the majority of them, and I was just wondering why I wasn't reading it. So it's not on your app. Okay, that's fine. And then my second question is, that's okay. My second question was, would it, if in real world, would it automatically read the agent off of the Accord? Sometimes I see it happen. Sometimes it doesn't.
If the agent is already in Appulate, yes, it usually does. Because of the way that my login credential works, it doesn't.
That's okay.
It's a super good question. Just because of training logistics.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, that's why I want to talk real world sometimes. Okay, how is this going to respond? So, yeah, because sometimes I see it pick up. Sometimes I see it doesn't. Sometimes I'm just trying to figure out the reason. So, okay. So yeah, we would definitely.
It depends on if the agent is already in there or not.
Okay. So we would definitely be picking that producer by email, as we talked to Pablo about, and then it would assign the agency. We do want that completed because then our brokers are going to be able to see the person they're working with and the agency name. And then we assign the PMC underwriter as well at the same time.
So the PMC underwriter, whoever, yes and no. So if the underwriter is the one that's working on it, then
the underwriter's not the one bridging it over. The underwriter is not the one bridging it over. It's going to be Tara or me. So it would assign it to us automatically. We would change that at time of at the same time after we assign the agent, after we get the contact, get the agent, then we assign the PMC underwriter, get their name on there, and then send the acknowledgement to the agent and then start from there.
Absolutely. And you can do that from the drop-down menu here, just assigning the agent. It's an options under underwriter.
Yep.
Perfect. And then we would add a market, whatever those are. We will use employers for this example. Let's say real world situation, the agent is not in here at all. They're used to emailing things to you. And they're like, I'm not going to push anything through Appulate, whatever. They can still answer the questions via send Q&A that you send them without even having to have an Appulate account.
Good.
Okay.
So this can definitely speed up the process. Just don't forget to change this to required unanswered only. It really simplifies the process. And if you see any tabs that don't have questions next to them, feel free to deselect them. But because you selected required unanswered only, it should not populate anything in this section. I just eliminate it so there isn't any confusion. But this is a really great way.
Can you send that out, but email it to me and Tara just so we can see what it looks like on that?
Because you're already in here.
Well, I think you can just put our email addresses. Once you pop up that email, you should just be able to manually just.
Because I don't have it assigned to an agency, it has to be assigned to an agency first. But your agency list does not allow for Appulate testing accounts to populate.
Gotcha. Okay, no worries. Yeah. That's okay. All right.
It is very, very, very simple. I will create, but if I answer the questions,
it's okay.
Eliminates it.
No, it's okay. That's all right. I just wanted to say that's okay.
I promise you it's very simple. And when we do a webinar, we will cover this. And I'm actually going to use a different email address that allows me to see the questions. I will actually be using the example of an insured view, but it's the same view for the agent, even if they didn't have an Appulate account. How the questions present themselves is exactly the same.
Okay, good.
So you'd go through the questions, the agent would answer them, same process. Now, if you didn't want to release via Appulate, because that agent does not have an Appulate account for whatever reason, I would still upload the quote through Appulate. I'm gonna mark this one as submitted. I would still upload the quote through Appulate so that you're able to mark everything and keep the solid record. So we can send via email here. So don't use the release button in this case. And there isn't one because I haven't assigned an agency, but if the agent doesn't use Appulate, don't click release. I would just do it via email this way.
So you got upload quote, you got that because the underwriter emailed it to you? Where did you get that upload quote? Like, when would you use that feature?
That's if, let's say you weren't taking advantage of an API, you were using a market, I'm not sure what,
right.
Maybe
and they emailed it to you.
If it's
you wanted to save it and upload it through here.
Yeah, so like GARD, for example. Let's say you push this through via web link, you got the submission, or you got the quote.
The approved quote. Okay.
We'll click mark as submitted first, because then that changes the status in the proper order. And then if the agent was to get in it, and let's say you weren't done processing the GARD quote, it would at least let them know visually that you've submitted it. And then you come back in here, click those three dots. You'll have upload quote and
get the quote.
It will change.
And then after you uploaded the quote, how did you get that email to generate to the agent? Was it in the menu? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and click the three dots and then click send via
send
email.
by email. Perfect. Because we are working on a template to be able to email out of Appulate. We've got that template going. Okay, good.
You can also upload here. So let's say we don't want to upload it inline. We want to upload it through PMC, and that agent does use Appulate. Maybe they just started using Appulate. You can click send via email and add whatever attachment it was to it as well.
That's good.
So how are you feeling so far?
Good. I like seeing the side of it, because to date, Tara and I have only been working up front. So to be able to work as though we were working this account is good to see the pieces, parts, and that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very similar. The MGA view is very similar to the agent view. So let's say an agent's like, well, I don't remember where the send Q&A button is, and you don't want to wait, or say you don't want to send them to Appulate support. You want to just help them out real quick. Because it's your same view, it's going to be in the same spot. So you can take a really quick screenshot and send it over to them.
Gotcha. No, that's really good. And then, so on an agent's perspective, they will see whoever they might have submitted directly through their Appulate account, and they'll see PMC in line with the other markets. So they know, okay, I sent it to PMC, and then maybe internally they send it to Travelers or CNA or Liberty, and they'll be able to see all of there. And so they'll be able to have, kind of a one-stop shop like we are, a one place for their people to go to see all the status of all the markets. Now, for example, say it's a carrier like Key Risk. I know Key Risk is working on a portal, but they don't have it yet. I would say Crum and Forster. We want to email the submission to Crum and Forster through here, as we want to keep everything here. This is going to be like our brokers are going to be able to go here, and this is going to be their summary. So we would add the market. Right. So we would add market, add Crum and Forster, and then get any of the docs in here. And that way we could select them as attachments that we want to send. We would have a cover template that says, hey, please take a look at this and let us know.
Exactly.
And then our underwriter's name. Do we have the ability to add underwriters' names and email addresses if they're not in here as a contact, for example, in the select?
Like to the email address themselves?
Yeah, like say, Crum and Forster, say we work with Cindy, and we want to email the submission to Cindy. Do we have the ability to add new? Cindy Healy?
Great question. So go ahead.
I see it right
We're taking Crum and Forster as an option. Click select. Cindy's not in here, but you'll only have to do this very next piece one time, and only one person has to do it.
Okay.
Click add new, add the underwriter's information, and click save. Now, forever going forward, that person will be in the drop-down library.
Available to anybody. Okay.
Exactly.
Good. So then when we email that submission to a carrier that does, we call e-submit, will that status change from not submitted yet to submitted to carrier or whatever that status
is? It will.
Is?
So yes, it will. It will automatically change. So like this is an email. We've added the person, we click submit. Once we email this out or we schedule the email, the schedule email will say scheduled, and then it won't actually say submit to the agent or even you until it actually emails out. But when you click submit, it will just change automatically to submit.
Is there a way to capture, so say that Crum & Forster, we're working basically outside of Appulate, but we would get a quote. Is there a way to put in a premium in that estimated premium box when that does come back?
It used to be an option, but let me make sure. So upload quote. I know it is on the agent side. I don't know why it wouldn't be on this side. See how these say enter? This should say enter. So yes, go ahead and click enter. Let's say it's 1200. There you go.
Show me that again. I'm sorry. Show me.
Yeah, no problem. Hold on, let me delete this.
Yeah.
All right.
So you have to upload a quote first.
Upload the quote.
Yep. You hit open.
Are you guys using IPFS or no?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. It's a premium finance company. So Appulate actually has a relationship with IPFS, and you're able to issue premium finance directly out of Appulate. It makes it really
very
simple.
good. That's okay. So it says enter, and at that point, that's where we'd enter. Perfect.
Yep.
That's
click
great.
enter, and then just type in the premium number.
Excellent. I really like that. So we can still email that quote, obviously, because you just uploaded it to the agent out inside of Appulate if we wanted to.
Absolutely.
Is there a way to send multiple quotes? Can you send multiple carrier quotes? So say, for example, they want our employers, they want the Guard, they want the Crum, they want to see all of them.
So you can, but you have to pull them from the list here. Actually, let me double check with Pavel, because I know it's like policy documents come up, but it's not quote documents. You would have to add them, like upload them as files.
Oh, okay. Which is fine.
But I do want to ask, because that would be really convenient, at least if we populated them. So there might be some logistics behind it as to why it doesn't currently exist that way that may have to do with the proposal. But let me discuss with Pavel and see what we can do there. Maybe there's some adjustments we can make.
Yeah, not that we would want to, but I know, like Andy, our quote cover template says something like, we've gone to 5 markets on your behalf. We're presenting the best quote, or something like that. It's important to let the agent know that we didn't just go to one market because we're presenting you with one quote. The template was something along those lines. So I'm not sure, long term, did we want to upload all those quotes and send all those quotes, or did he just want that in the template wording? So we definitely, I'd like to know the answer to that. And then when we do get that template in there and we do send that, there's no variable for that. I don't think I saw any variable for that, like how many quotes.
No, I don't believe so. No,
I didn't see it either. Okay. This is good. So I think something we have to identify that we're still working on are, what are the required fields for PMC? Never mind, what are the required fields for carriers? Obviously, they've already identified those. But what is PMC going to require? And we do have some custom questions that we would like to input in there. And I know we're still working on it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I definitely would, because that's going to help. Like, let me.
That'll avoid those having to send those required, not those required questions, but having to send those questions to the agent. We'd rather get them up front.
Right. Well, and it'll make things a little bit faster. Sorry, I have so many different accounts. It would make it easier for the agent to view.
Yes.
When we get here, and it will make it faster when submitting to PMC's market, because some of these questions that could populate here that aren't populating now are part of the market. So you're going to wind up using the send Q&A option less frequently when we implement those. So yeah, definitely.
Is there a logic that says, okay, like for example, this specific example that you're using is class code 8004. One of the questions that we are looking to add, that we're talking internally, is basically, is this a healthcare risk? Is this a staffing risk? And have radio buttons for them to select. Is this and then it would be healthcare, select that radio button. Staffing, select that radio button. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then if it is healthcare, is it intelligent enough to know, okay, they say they pick that as the selection. Is it intelligent enough to then go, okay, so if this, make these required questions, which would actually be required questions for Amtrust employers?
You can. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So if an agent answers a question a particular way, we are able to program the system to populate any additional questions that are required based off of that answer, yes or no, like whatever way you'd like to go with it.
Good. That's great. Yeah, because we do have transportation program, staffing program, healthcare program, and then pretty much general business or whatever. So yeah. Oh, that's absolutely really good. That's really good. Did you give us an hour, Sarah, or a half hour?
I did give you an hour, so we can use the whole time if you want.
Yep. Or just want to make sure we weren't running out of time.
No, we're good. Right. Yeah, I figured an hour.
Cool. Excellent. We appreciate that. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, so that we saw from an agent's perspective, yeah, because we don't want to just leave it generic here. We definitely are going to add required questions, so that not to make it super difficult, but just enough information for us to be able to make intelligent decision about which market we're going to go to, which program it might be for us, and
and that will kickstart the submission process for PMC and the agent. So you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping the agent. So let's say that they answered no in a particular question, that question resulted in a declination. They know that PMC isn't a market for whatever they're looking for. It's so much faster than them clicking submit and then you having to issue a declination like 24 hours later.
Exactly. And I think having this wide open like this for now, like I referred that agent back to the agent we were discussing this morning, I referred her to Appulate, sent her that email invitation and said, I see your agency is in there. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the platform. Let me know if you have any questions. So it's good to know that we can use it right now, even though we haven't required any specific fields. At least that is a way for her to submit new business to us rather quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. And it will just continue to improve. And let's say we do implement a set of questions and we've discovered that we need to add some additional questions or some additional parameters after we've tested those initial sets of questions. We can always go back and revisit that as well.
And I do like the fact that you can build on it, such as what our carriers do, right? They're constantly improving the experience. They're constantly making changes. Like when you click submit, you get a whole validation window. You get the option to switch your login code. You get a kind of a review before you click submit, make sure it's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I do like those improvements. And I think we'll just continue doing the same thing on our end, just improving the product as we realize different things happen a different way.
Absolutely. And that's one of the really nice things that I love about Appulate as a company. I was an agent before I started using Appulate, and not only do we listen to our MGA carrier partners, but we listen to our agents as well. And the system is malleable enough that, you provide us feedback, or the pilot groups provide us feedback, or the agents down the line actively using provide us feedback. We can then take that piece of feedback, let's say it came from the agent, discuss it with you, and make changes based off of, hey, it would be really great if PMC did this when in the submissions as an agent.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Just like we comment on, hey, with the Amtrust, it'd be really great if we could do this. Same thing. It's just different levels of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So where are we at the next step?
So let me log out of this view, and I'm actually going to get back into the training. So that is actually the submission process.
Okay.
Either way from start to finish, but I can't type today. My glasses. Okay. I'm going to get back in this view, and let's just go over a couple little things. So we talked about new and unassigned. There's also forthcoming submissions. So this is going to be a list of submissions that an agent may have started, but didn't submit to PMC for whatever reason. Either yourself, or if you would like to take advantage of Appulate's resources here, we can assist in reaching out to these agents and saying, hey, we noticed you started a submission for PMC for this particular insured. Is there anything that we can do to help push this through? Do you have any questions? If it becomes appetite related, we can always push that over to you. But if it is training related, then we can take that on right away and help push the agent, help push the agent's submission through. So you don't have to. But if you want to comb through these, please by all means as well. But let us know when we can assist too.
Who would we reach out to for that help?
Go ahead and reach out to me, and I will delegate it over to one of the folks on my support team. It's usually going to be Carrie, but Carrie Walton, who is on our Producer Connect Standards support side. But I also have an additional resource that, let's say I notice that particular agency is what we call a premium agency. I will push them over to Jessica, who's our dedicated account manager for all Producer Connect premium accounts, and then she will act as the liaison there. I don't expect you to identify or be able to identify those. So feel free to forward it over to me, and I will get that delegated out right away.
Perfect. So those forthcoming submissions, and then there was, what was the other under quotes? What's the other category? New and unassigned.
The other one is new and unassigned. Mm-hmm.
So shouldn't me and Tara be receiving notification that something was submitted? Because I do get those emails when agents submit and it's not assigned to any PMC person yet.
You do. And I mean, it looks like one of them was a test, so that could be why. And it came in from a test agency that you didn't. Now, 360 risk, I would have to have Pavel do some research on that, so I can get into that. But
they're definitely one of our agents. Okay. Yeah, I did think I saw something. Oh, that's old though. Received it in 2017. I was gonna say, I thought I saw something recent from you, and you might have been just doing some testing, but that.
There was one of them when I was going through it the other day. I was going through it, and then I went in and just deleted everything.
Okay,
so
good.
It didn't mess
that
up.
makes
so
sense.
If you and I will wind up, once you feel comfortable in all of the training, I will remove this account so it no longer shows up in PMC at all.
Okay, that sounds good.
There's also, I do want to point out the overall, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I do want to be sure we cover reports, because reports are really important as we kind of focus our attention on the Appulate side more than the Nexture side, although we are still going to be exporting the stuff to Nexture. I want to be able to run some reports. I thought I had a handle on them, and now I'm not sure. So I would like to spend some time, whether it be today or in the near future. I think our brokers would definitely benefit from being able to run their reports.
Absolutely. We can take a look at this. We can definitely take a look at this now. I was just going to review activity really quick. This is just an overall activity. Some folks forget that this is here, so I just like to point it out. Also that you can timestamp this. So if you're looking for activity between a particular time period, you can narrow that down, as well as user. All right, reports. Is there any particular report you'd like to start with?
What about the submissions, or is that basically what I'm looking at here with activity? Is that the same thing?
It's a little bit different. Okay. Great question. So this is going to be who you're submitting to.
Gotcha.
What markets you are submitting to. You can narrow this down by different periods.
Can we just can you narrow the date? Can you narrow the dates down to, now, is that effective date or date we got the submission in that custom period?
It can be whatever you want it to be.
All right, so let's do let's do this week. Let's do October 12th through today, October 14th. Just keep it a short list. And then
it narrows it down for you.
Okay, so this is for every underwriter. So now we've received, when we say received, what does that mean? We submitted that to AmTrust, for example?
Yes, you've submitted. Well, yes, you've received the quotes back from AmTrust. You are some of them. I'm betting maybe haven't been sent out yet.
Okay.
But yes, it's everything that you've received back from this market.
And then in play would be we've submitted and we, it's currently in some status. Yeah. See, I don't understand.
Yes, that it's in an active status.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in an active status that isn't declined by a market or isn't declined by you, canceled or bound. It's just overall. This is what is considered active and in play.
Pending
is released to the agent, but no request to be bound has happened yet.
Okay. Quoted ongoing. It's actually showing as quoted.
Mm-hmm.
And when we export this out, since there are I don't think there are links inside this report. If we exported this out, would we see the details behind the scenes? Like of those 4 AmTrust, who are they? Or of the 9 pending or 135? Does it give us the
No,
detail?
It doesn't. And I can even export this to Excel just to show you what it looks like. It's not going to tell you exactly what submissions they are.
It's basically exactly what you see on the screen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
X out of that for a second. And then let's switch over to, in the reports, let's switch over to what's under statistics.
A lot of folks don't use this a ton of the time. It's a very, until you start binding everything and showing different bound ratios, it's going to break everybody down. It's, how long it takes for somebody to quote and what's the overall bound ratio. Once you really start getting into things, it's not important yet.
Okay.
No, it'll become important, but one that is actually that you might start looking at is line of business. So this will be great once we really start ramping everything up, what the bound ratio is versus what you've sent out. So it'll become important. It's just not quite relevant yet.
What's under work comp class codes?
This is just a giant list of everything you would write under whatever class code it is, under whatever state.
Oh boy, that's a busy
also
report.
Can be narrowed down, but this is a large list, even when you export it. So I just say, be a little careful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would only probably just want to look at 2021 for now, but just curious to see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we may end up like book a business. I think we may end up spending more time. Maybe it's not, like you said, maybe we got to wait till we really ramp up and have been using this for a certain time period, but I think we might need to revisit the report section at some time.
Absolutely. Bring it up anytime. I'd be happy to go through it.
All right. So in the setup, I know you can customize each employee's email signature. I saw that. No way to, signature seems to be pretty cryptic. It's really just text. There's no PMC logo, or maybe we can add the PMC logo because I learned how to do that this morning. But just in the user's emails, in that emails, for example, okay, I do see the image.
I just wanted, before we got off that, you can. So the user just has to have their email configured first, and then they can go to the setup and then email templates option. The very first section that pops up under parameters, you just click edit email signature and it takes you here.
So for example, I have my email configured. Tara has her email configured through our PMC server. Is there any way to get this to look like our Outlook signature a little more?
So
like our Outlook
you can create an image of it and upload it via, so just essentially take an image screenshot and create an image of it. Or if you want to link it, let's say it's hosted somewhere, you can link it. I'd say upload is the easiest option. So you just essentially make it an image.
But the links like to our Facebook page and our those wouldn't work because it's an image.
You can, on the image portion, yes, but you can put them underneath that image so that they still work. So it might look a little bit different than the email signature that you use now, slightly modified, but they will still work. You just got to enter them in a little bit differently.
Yeah, just got to spend some time doing it. Okay. All right, that sounds good. What else do we have?
Users, I will point out, this is going to be something that's only viewable by admin. If someone is not an admin, they will not be able to see anything in this list. So if someone needs to be added as a new user, or their rights revoked, but not have anything that had to do with their submissions deleted, that's when you would use this kind of snooze button.
Okay. So everybody really should be a user. Everybody should be a user except for Andy, me, Tara, David, Dimitri.
Yeah, I'm a temporary admin.
Which I think is actually Sandy's an admin. That's okay. And then Tara. So yeah, I think Vanessa, we'll have to change her to a just user. But everybody else, for the most part, looks good to be just a user. I think everybody's set up. But there are, like I said, that I do have to go through each one and in those notifications, and we do have to tweak some of those notifications. And I'm looking forward to when your notifications are a little bit easier and a little more user friendly and optional.
Right. I will say the individual user will have an option to set some of their own notifications.
Right. That's okay.
But yeah, you will be able to make edits as you need to as well. Yeah, there's also in settings some overall notifications, like notifying the users of changes, notify the user when and it looks like you don't have this checked. So I would probably have this checked. Do you mind if I make this change for you?
No, please change it.
Because I definitely want that.
Yeah, in our call this morning, Claudia's not being notified when we're finishing her submissions for her and the status changes. Yeah. So we're not sure why.
Now it should. I think this may have gotten deselected somehow. It should be okay now.
Okay, so for example, when we send out that questionnaire to the agent, they send it back. They're going to get an email. That's what you turned on, right?
Right. And then the other one that we want to turn on, I'm not sure what documents you're having signed or maybe required signatures right now. So you may not want this at the moment, but I would come back and reevaluate this data right here if in the event you send over signature requests to the agent, because you want to be notified when they sign accords and forms as well.
Oh, absolutely. You can check that box. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Okie dokie. Good. Those are good ones. All right.
Yeah,
so I think everything looks set up. As far as users, you may need to go do a little bit of evaluation there. Also want to bring up the company section. If there was ever an additional quote unquote location that you wanted to add, you could. But other than that, everything seems everything looks good.
Excellent. Good. Tara, do you have any questions?
Other questions?
I think we covered everything. Like, I'm happy to see from an agent's perspective and then like the broker's perspective of what they do after we get the quote.
Right. Right. Exactly.
But
yeah. And then when we bind, like say we bind with the API carriers, I assume it's going to bring us to the carrier portal and finish that bind that's required by that carrier.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, I think
then it will automatically mark it as bound for the agent side as well when they request it to be bound. So, and then that also makes it easier for renewals the following year as well. Even if it wasn't auto renew, it makes it easier for both PMC and the agent.
Okay. So when we are training our internal people, you got to remember this is their first time seeing Appulate, where Tara and I have been working with Appulate for probably a year plus. So when we first start with the internal team, obviously we're going to need to go a little slower. We're going to need to explain. So where do you suggest we start with the team? I know you sent some of those links to those videos, but those aren't what we just went through. I was looking at them, a dashboard view, submission creation. Well, our team's not going to be creating a submission. Uplink view, they're not going to be doing any of the uplink. submission. I did look at the submission.
We do want to still show them. So I will definitely take it slower, and what we'll do afterwards, I know it sounds like we're gonna have 2 training sessions. I also want to follow up with that, like the very next week with a Q&A. Yep. Hey, have you gotten a chance to get in there? Let's do a Q&A. I do find that if the user understands the overall big picture process, yep, the nitty gritty is retained a lot faster than if we showed them little chunks. Okay. And I know that's how some of the videos that I provided are broken up. That's just how we have had them recorded, unfortunately. Yes. But it will, everyone should have a basic understanding next week after we go through the training.
So do you suggest we start with the submission workflow, Appulate style submission, or go in the order that you've provided those videos in that email?
I'm happy to do it either way. It's whatever, honestly, you feel best. If you want me to show the process how I did it today, starting with what does it look like for the agent? Yep. Then we'll move over to, okay, now that the agent submitted, what does it look like for PMC? Okay. Then we'll move over to that. Okay, PMC releases it. What does it look like when it goes back to the agent? They start associating the desktops here and the submissions, yep, right, because they look almost identical in so many ways. It's just a few little things that are different, and those become easier to identify when I show you the whole process.
Okay, no, it sounds good. Yeah, I like today's training. I think I like that whole process. I just wasn't sure if you wanted me to email out these videos ahead of time or wait and do what you just did today. Next week, start with this type of class first, and then you can send the videos for them to watch. Let's do that. After. Okay.
Let's do that. So let's just start with me showing them the system for the very first time next week, explaining what it is, what it does, how it's going to be used. And then they can watch that, because I'll record those videos as well, so that they can revisit their own training that they were in. And then bring any questions to the Q&A after that.
Okay. Sounds good. And I'm sure, they can reach out to Tara or I if they have questions in the interim, and just trying to figure out when we bridge them over, when we just jump in both feet and say, okay, let's go. This is how we're going to do it. I think there's going to be, I don't know if we're actually going to have 2 workflows. I mean, I would love it for them to work all exclusively in Appulate, because working 2 different ways is really hard. And I would love to let go of some of the manual things we're doing today so that we don't have to.
It is. And a lot of it is going to be a change of habit. A lot of folks who see the training, but then still wind up working out of Appulate, it's simply because of the habit. And so
they just want to get a job done.
Mm-hmm. And so hammering home that Appulate is now your submission program or your submission system of record, making it, mandatory in a nice way, is how you're going to get people to use it. So they're like, okay, my old habit, I can't do that anymore. This is the new one. This is how, PMC is keeping a record. So I need to move over here.
Right. And I can tell you there, I know this is being recorded, but I can tell you that we
can cut out the end.
Yeah. It's fourth quarter, it's crunch time, people are going crazy, they need to get their job done, and we don't want to be we don't want this to be a burden to them. So I just want to be prepared that I am sure there's going to be a lot of frustration, because we just want to do our job, we have to write business, and the pressure is on. So I just want to make sure that we do take our time. We do go through the training, do the Q&A. I really like that. I really like what you showed today. I really like, if I didn't know Appulate, I would really like to see exactly how you presented it today. Like if I were new, that would be the first time. I would love to see it. I would get excited about it. So I think you made it look very easy. So that I think is going to be You did.
Well, thank you. And honestly, a lot of it is, just going back to the repetition portion of it. And I know it's fourth quarter. Fourth quarter is very hard for agents, MGAs, carriers, anybody to kind of retain any sort of new training. So something else I would suggest is probably revisiting training overall again, maybe come like mid first quarter, just so we can get those folks who didn't adopt it initially, we get them back on track with a little bit of time in between.
I love it. Awesome. How is your, training other wholesalers, I would say, or, I wouldn't really compare us to a retail agent. It is quite different. How is the usage? Are you finding that you're doing multiple training sessions? Are you finding people are okay with it, or is it a mixed bag?
Oh, absolutely. I have 2 other folks on our training team who are responsible for all of our agent training now, but I developed all of that curriculum and it is going great. I mean, our Producer Connect standard side, she's booked at least 24 to 48 hours out constantly. So she's always getting new folks that are coming in. Same with Producer Connect Premium. We also host weekly webinars for our agents for both Producer Connect Premium and Producer Connect Standard. And those webinars are always a big hit. I mean, to the point where we have to host them twice a week. So it's still really busy. This is actually come November and December. That's our biggest downtime of the year because agents have such a hard time. Yeah, they're really busy and they have a hard time getting new implementations down. But then come January, like mid to end of January, everyone's ready to go and we get a whole new influx of usually new employees. So,
because what happens is, again, close in December, and then all of a sudden you're in fast forward, going 180 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you come back to work after the holidays, and it's like, you're like, wait a minute, I don't know what to do. Like, I have all this energy, like, what's going on? It's quite interesting because I was a broker for a number of years at PMC before I switched over to this, and it's weird. It's like you're really quiet, and you're wondering, oh my God, am I going to make my my quota? Am I going to do okay? It's crazy. So I can definitely see that. It's there's no such thing as Christmas in the insurance industry.
No, there's really not. It's just madhouse all the time.
Exactly. So I'm just preparing because I know we will have certain people who will fight us on this. So we just have to make sure that we just take it as positive as. And
that's okay. They can be part of the second round. So
exactly.
Worst case scenario, we have a fallback plan. Everything's going to work out. And I don't mind at all ever scheduling additional trainings when folks need them.
I love that.
So I'm more than happy to get on a call.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Absolutely. I will cut the end of the video off. I'm going to send it over to Cassidy and then get her to upload it to YouTube. As soon as I have the link back from her, I'll distribute it to the both of you.
Excellent. That'd be great.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Thanks. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.